What's up? Hey, everybody.
So, guys,
Siji.
HC.
James,
Jason.
Vlad.
Today we are talking about
Controller.
Controller.
Woo! So the question that Siji has posed for us today, or I suppose the topic, is being controlling versus taking control. Are they the same thing, or are they mutually exclusive? First of all, I think it's fair, Siji, you have come up with this topic of discussion. I think you should define what you think the difference between being controlling and taking control is.
Okay. So, to me,
To you.
only to me, not to everybody, but to me, being in control is when you are taking lead in your life. You're taking responsibility for your actions, what is happening around you. Being controlling is when you're doing all these things, but you're doing it to the extreme. And the reasons why you're doing that might vary, and it could be due to fear, or it could be due to it's just the way you feel safe. But yeah, taking control, you are taking responsibility for your actions. Controlling, you are over planning everything in order to feel a sense of well-being.
Say again the two. So what was the first one?
Taking control,
What's the second one?
being in control.
Okay.
Well, I kind of would agree with Siji there, that the distinction that you've made about taking control and being in control rings true. But I want to know, what kind of context are you talking about? Are you talking relationships? Life in general? Work? And I'm talking relationships, not just romantic, but also people, colleagues, work partners.
You asking me?
I'm asking you.
He's asking me. Okay, so, I'll give some backstory. I was born in 1991 in
Vietnam.
No, Manchester.
So you're born in
So, yeah.
Back in Nam.
Oh, and this ad is sponsored by Cronenberg.
1664. Life Aid. 199.
So yeah. I was having a discussion with a friend this morning, and we were talking about how they were going to be late for an appointment. And whenever they're late, this causes them anxiety. So they don't like to be late for things. And I was like, wow, how did you manage to get to your appointment so fast? So like, oh, the anxiety made me turbo speed there. And I was like, okay, cool. But the same person I'm talking about also, rather than seeking help for their anxiety, they're dealing it with their own way, which is everybody's right, of course, to deal with your own problems in your way. But another problem that was also about to occur, which I don't know if they had thought of, was the fact that because they were going to this doctor's appointment, doctors tend to run late, So they were trying to control their situation by being on time and being there on time. But inevitably, you cannot control everything, and something is going to crop up. And then when you lose that sense of control, a problem will arise. So I'm not talking about it in the sense of a relationship. I'm talking about it in the sense of just everyday life. It could apply to a relationship because some people are in a relationship, but sometimes it just applies to what you're doing in a situation.
Brilliant.
With the point of doctors being a bit late, I have a funny saying to that. In Germany, especially in German military, there's a saying that goes in German: 5 Minuten vor der Zeit ist es Soldatenpünktlichkeit, 10 Minuten später kommt der Sanitäter. 5 minutes before the time is a soldier's time, 10 minutes later comes the rescue services.
Grim.
Yeah. Well, basically, I'm kind of thinking about it that I have been, since high school, perpetually late, at least 2 to maybe 3-4 times a week to arriving in high school, and yet it doesn't really matter, I'd say. Like many of the appointments and everything like that we might be having, yes, it does depend on.
Stop flexing with that cat.
It's not my fault, okay? Sorry.
You got them muscles, of course. You have to flex it, you know.
But
He's a sex appeal, like in this
So
concept.
Stop cutting off using.
So what
Go.
Vlad is hinting on is that you really don't have to worry about being on time. Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying? Well, I'm the opposite. I like to get somewhere at least half an hour before I need to be there. I get really frustrated if I know I'm going to be late for something. You know, if I need to be out the door for 10 o'clock and it's 5:02 and I've still not brushed my teeth, I get really panicked. It's not a really good way to start the morning. I have to get up 2 hours before I even need to be somewhere, just because I like to chill out in the morning, take my time and leave. So I'm at the train station at least 15 minutes before I actually need to be there.
But
I like to be early.
you could chill and everything like that 2 hours beforehand. And well, okay, with buses it's something different. But in a place where you have, well, for instance, why I wanted to be a researcher in the first place is because I could arrive at any point. There is no fixed time that you actually have to arrive, but you just have to fill in your time, right?
Right.
So it's like with also meetings, when you meet a friend, it's okay to arrive 5 minutes later or so, because life happens, right? I mean, of course, it's not the best thing. It's not the nicest thing to be late to a place, but yet it does. It's life. It happens.
So would you purposefully go, do you know what? I don't need to control the time. I can't control the time. We can't control the time. That is a thing that people that are controlling need to grasp, is that you cannot control the time, but we can control our action to time, you see? What you're suggesting is that, fuck it, we don't need to worry about it. I'll get there when I get there. Whereas I'm on the feeling is that, you know, the schedules and there's time for a reason, you know? I don't want to miss my train and be late for work.
That is different though than a train which is scheduled for a very big public rather than an individual kind of organization or.
Do you
situation.
think, because you're saying this in the theme of controlling and being in control and stuff, do you think this actually being in time and stuff like that, does that count in this category, or is that irrelevant?
I think we're focusing on one particular aspect, which is time. That was just a story that brought the whole controlling aspect to my mind. Controlling, it's more of a, this person was particularly controlling because of their anxiety. The anxiety is what makes them control, because in order to, instead of dealing with anxiety by seeking proper help, they use control as a mechanism to deal with it. And part of the anxiety is one of the things that stress them out is being late. So this is how they dealt with it. So yeah, to answer your question, House, being controlling and taking control, they can apply to loads of different topics, and lateness is just one of them. I'm sure everyone has a situation. Here we go. Here's a question. What is a situation where you feel you need to be in control? A better question. Who in this room thinks they are controlling?
I've been called.
It's a spectrum. This is what I mean. It's a spectrum.
It's
It's the control. It's the spectrum of control. Now, I studied control systems engineering, so I had to get
expert.
Simon.
So I'm very interested in how we have a desired outcome, and we have our own input, our own internal input. We've got disturbances in the external world which are going to knock us off course, and we have to develop some kind of strategy to overcome these external disturbances to get to where we want to go, you see. Now, the problem with that is you can cause the system to become too rigid. You could maybe put too much energy into the control system that you've made, and that you've actually overdone it. So one little knock-off course and it actually becomes unstable over time. So this is kind of an analogy to humans, you see. So if you need just the right amount of control, you need to do it in a way in which it isn't going to cause this kind of instability.
Mm-hmm.
But you do need control in some aspect as well. Now, I think the thing that you got to remember is that if you are controlling, then that shows that you've got an underlying fear and insecurity, that you cannot adapt to change. You cannot adapt to anything that goes against the plan. And that itself, you need to have a spontaneous attitude. You need to be able to go, like go with the flow, for example. And I think, but you can't just lend yourself to allowing the current to take you where you need to go, because as we know, some currents lead to waterfalls, which can end up killing you, right? So I think you do need to have some kind of control strategy. But am I controlling? Again, as I said, it's a spectrum. I think on one end of the spectrum, you've got absolutely no control whatsoever. You're happy just go with the stream and let the forces of nature take you to where you need them to go. But I tried this for many years, and it actually led to me going absolutely nowhere in particular. Then on the other end of the spectrum, what you have is utter control, where you cannot have anything other than what you've planned, and you become sort of strong but brittle at the same time. And anything that goes against your plan, you kind of put in too much energy trying to make things the way that you want them to be. That ain't a good way. So either end of the spectrum is bad, but somewhere in the middle, down here, I think that's the sweet spot.
Well, I think going off what you just said, you made a distinction about the two extremes. Well, I think there is a distinction between the two extremes, but I think controlling is more of an attitude rather than an actual physical thing. We only have X amount of control. We don't have, not people that are really controlling and people that go with the flow. They both have the same amount of control in life. But mentally, they want to have more than that control. So the person who's going with the flow has accepted how much control he actually has in life and said, I'm okay with that. But the person who's controlling is like, no, that's not. I want more control. This is not enough.
So you think people on one end of the spectrum, they can never have enough control.
Exactly. The control for both people, like you can't, a person, you can't just suddenly have control over whatever we're talking before, time or the weather or external factors you can't have control of.
But
both people have the same control.
I agree. Have you ever read the Stoics, like Stoic philosophy?
Oh.
Epictetus. Oh, you do. He's
Stoic.
Yes. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. But they say that there's three levels of things. So you've got those things which are in your control, those things which are not in your control, and in the middle, I'm going to stick my middle finger up here. You've got things which you have some control over, but you also have no control over. And so you've got to worry. You've got to spend all of your efforts. Now, so the things that you've got control over, that's where you spend most of your energy.
Yeah.
Things that you can dictate and things that you can influence. Then you've got some things which you have some control over. Like, for example, you can control what time you get the bus.
Or you can control Siji playing with his phone all the time, can't?
So you can control the time. You can maybe control the time you go.
So if we're doing sponsorship, I have to get like the props.
So, controlling.
I don't know. You've knocked me off course now.
I do wonder to what extent control is actually real in the first place.
Life aids.
In the end, we are doing what our
Sure.
brains.
Advert sponsored by. I feel like you guys should do the advert commercial for Life Aid.
Yeah. Let's.
Sorry.
Well, you know what I feel? I feel like you just keep interrupting everybody that is trying to think about.
Ooh.
Thank you.
But basically, I'm thinking that control in the first place is kind of something so individually perceived that it can be knocked off so easily by the smallest events. You might think that when you're walking down the street and you find a little coin on your way, you will be feeling happier perhaps, and you will be wanting to spend it on something. Especially if you're younger, you might be feeling like, oh, that's so great, that's so amazing. I will get to buy my favorite chocolate or something like that, let's say. But as we grow older, we want to control more of the world. We want to. And we create systems that would gather us in certain control systems, but yet they can be knocked off just as easily. We can look at our legal systems, we can look at our economy, we can look at any kind of infrastructure. It's all organized after a certain system in order for it to be.
Actually, I like your talk. I like where you're going, because I think this is one, like, what exactly what you say about control, the systems we have in place. You know, we all have this idea. You know, we can go to the Sainsbury's or the supermarket and buy our chicken or buy our whatever. But there's so many systems that all have to function perfectly with each other for us to be able to get this. And we take this for granted. There's so much stuff that is actually out of our control, you know, and we take for granted, and we instead focus on little things that really have no importance in our life.
Yeah, I totally. You know, and I think I find it really funny when I work on the bar and somebody comes up to the bar and they say to you, oh, can I have a pint of
Pint of Kronenberger 1664. FYI, our advertisement company.
Hey. So somebody comes at the bar and they order this particular brand of lager, and we don't have it in for whatever reason, and they feel personally insulted by the universe. They're like, what? Are you serious? How can you? It's like, chill out, man. You know, that's not in your control. You know, and this is part of these sort of mini systems that are functioning together. That, you know, in one area it's broken down, so that person can have that particular brand of beer. But they become so stressed and so preoccupied with this that they've taken it for granted, as you say, and they've missed out on the finer things. So they're taking for granted things, but they're also missing on appreciating things and controlling things that they have actual influence over. Like, spend your money elsewhere. Go to a different fucking pub if that's what you want.
How does a beer get there, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what's the process behind that? What's the control system behind that to get that beer?
It's really interesting. Yeah. I used to work for a brewery, and I did a little bit of a work for a brewery, an Australian, and you got to see the brewery and the systems that they have. Yeah, it's very tightly controlled, very you know, because we're talking margins, fine margins, you know, between the beer tasting great and the beer tasting kind of shit. So yeah, there has to be control systems in there. So imagine if one of those breaks down, and as soon as a batch of beer that goes out, and if it's an independent brewery, a craft brewer, who, you know, like one batch, that's going to make a massive dent in their sales.
But what you just said now, you know, what you're now talking about is control in your business environment. You know, there's two. Well, there's life, and then there's your job, your business. You know, and in some cases, you know, control might be a positive thing, where it's, you know, you need to have quality control. You know, you don't want to have a shit product at the end of the day. But, you know, is it okay to apply the same thing in life? And I don't think not. You know, you can't apply what you do in business to life.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, when is control necessary?
Exactly. When should you actually worry about
When
it?
should we have control? When should we not?
When
should
do you
we be
think?
controlling? When should we not take control?
When? That's
When?
a good place to start.
Asking me. When do I think control? Okay, so in my life, and I can only talk from my perspective, in my life, being controlling is never necessary in my life. Taking control of certain situations is necessary, such as I have the power to organize my business structure, what should be done, when it should be done, and then I will hand out those tasks to people to help me. But I would not be controlling in the sense as micromanaging those tasks. I would just be I've made a system and I'm handing it out. In my life personally, rather than my business life, I would take control of the situations by when I have to do the dishes, when I have to clean a flat, when I go and see friends. But I wouldn't be controlling in the fact of saying, hey, we're meant to meet at 7 o'clock today. You weren't here at 7 o'clock. Screw this, our friendship is over. That would be being controlling and insane.
Okay, right.
Do I know?
But is that what controlling in life? I mean, is that what you do? Is that what a controlling person does? What, they unfriend someone because they
I think
were
maybe
late?
to an extreme. I'm sure some people.
No, why is it? I don't think that's what that's like. I think that might, I don't know, maybe 1 in a billion does that, but I don't think that's the general idea of what controlling people do.
Here's what I think a controlling person is. And we're not talking about just in a relationship, we're talking about controlling in
Yeah, we
general.
haven't even talked about in a relationship actually yet.
I'm sure we will, but how can you not? But at the
Do
same
you have a controlling person in your relationship or in your life? Let us know now in the comments.
yeah.
Call us,
You
man.
can't really do that anonymously.
From
but-
4 to 5.
Do you have a controlling person you want to discuss? Let us know. We can answer your question.
Put your number. Put your number so I can control you.
07455 123 123.
Exactly.
You know, so I think that in general we can even perceive.
Oh, he's back. Okay.
Yeah, it might have been heard why. You can perceive even control on multiple levels, multiple matters, like even small scale, bigger scale, and like major scale. Like if we look small scale, an individual can perceive control over their life through like, okay, when do I take the bus? When do I have breakfast? When do I go and have a meeting with some person? Even to the aspect of when do I have relations with somebody. But on a way bigger scale, you can look at it in politics. What side do I go? Do I go more for the right perspective, or do I go more for the left perspective? Which right is very much stoic and very much perspective of having very fixed rules that shouldn't be changing, while the left is very much towards liberalism and change of things. So you can think about it in multiple levels, and if we truly want to achieve control of our lives, we have to achieve control throughout all those matters. That is, frankly, I don't think it's just not possible. So you think full control is just not possible?
So you think
in the first place?
So full control would be somebody who's controlling. I think that's what.
Definitely.
So somebody who's full is controlling. Taking your example.
In my opinion.
Yeah, somebody who they've planned their life out and they maybe they value their time, for example. And so if you're late for an appointment with them or a meeting with them, then they maybe go, do you know what? Yeah, you've let me down. You're untrustworthy. And they could go through life in that way and not really they don't allow themselves to be fully open to people because, maybe the very fact that they're allowing themselves to be vulnerable scares them because now they have to be controlling of the situation. And any kind of unpredictability or uncertainty terrifies them. Like life should be spontaneous. We can't predict what's going to happen, every little thing, right? And that's what makes it exciting. Because imagine if we could predict the future with certain accuracy, like absolute accuracy. And what's the point of life? We already know it's like watching a movie again. You watch a movie, then it starts to diminish in its value. The very fact that life is uncertain, you can't control everything, makes it interesting, right?
That's exactly, I think, what exactly you said. Wait, 2 seconds. I think what you're saying about controlling, like planning everything and not being able to accept that some things will not be you won't have control over it. You won't be able to prediction. That's the thing. You plan a whole day. You can't plan every little thing. You can't be okay. I'm waking up this time. This morning I'm gonna have breakfast. This is the shoes I'm gonna wear. This is the thing.
But have you ever been on a road trip with somebody who has planned every little fucking stop and destination right down to the fucking second.
Because every little thing is gonna be alright. Sorry, can't.
And then
It's gonna be alright.
it draws the fun out of a road trip because they've got, they've planned out A to B to C to D to E to F, all the way to Z, where you want to be, your destination. And they've got times of, we have to be here at this time, we have to be there at that time, we have to be there at this time. But lo and behold, you've got a diversion in the road. You can't go down the motorway, you have to take a diversion. You might go on the back road, and all of a sudden the plan has to be torn up. And they're frantic, like, oh, we need to be here at this time. It's like, chill out. Let's enjoy this diversion in life and see where it takes us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have 3 minutes left
Okay.
I have 3 minutes left.
because we don't want it to be longer than half an hour.
Yeah, we can have it.
So let's touch what, right? Okay, so we haven't talked about controlling people in relationships, right?
No, we have not.
So let's talk about that.
We can talk
Talk about the bitch, James.
I'd rather not.
Before moving on to that, just make a point about the trip thing. Why is it that a fully planned trip is not enjoyable? Why is it? Because it's planned like a business. A business. I mean, in today's world, usually profit is the thing. Maximum profit is the thing. So if you're planning a trip, you're planning a trip to the point, you're creating kind of like maximum. You're viewing the maximum amount of scenery. You're viewing the maximum amount of exposure, whatever, and you think that's what's giving you the satisfaction. But you're not counting. You can't plan enjoyment. You can't plan. You can't know.
Can you imagine that? Okay, it's 9:55. I'm going to enjoy myself. 9:56.
You could plan that if you consider enjoying yourself.
What activity would you do to enjoy yourself at 9:55?
I'm 37 right now, so okay.
But you see, the point is that you can't do that. You can't do that for a lot of stuff. You can't plan enjoyment. You can plan how many stuff you're gonna see and hope that no traffic accident is gonna break that. But you can't know if that's you're gonna enjoy that. You have to live at the moment. You have to see the mountain and be like, well, I kind of feel like I want to climb that now. I don't want to go see the other chicken or whatever.
Brilliant. Yes, I agree.
No,
I agree.
I think we should all do a quick summary. I want to see. Start from you. You got 20 seconds.
So hang on. Let's.
So I'm trying to kind of half an hour. We're not going to have kind of half an hour.
He's wanting it half an hour. We'll just go with half an hour. Okay. So the question: do you want to summarize your opinion? And I know you like to talk, so let's cut this down to you've got 20 seconds. Being controlling versus taking control. Vlad.
Being controlling, well, you can only be as controlling as you want, but you will only be able to take control only as much as you can, because being controlling, you are perceived as being controlling, even though you might just be acting on your impulses, on your biology, on your perceptions of the world, while how much you are actually taking control, you might just be doing nothing, absolutely, in the end.
Well said.
James?
Well, I still maintain that you've got to have a balance. You've got to go with the flow and be spontaneous, but I also think you've got to take control and plan. Otherwise, you stagnate and you don't go anywhere. There's a saying that says I'm butchering it up, so I'm paraphrasing. A man who dithers in his choosing will have his circumstance made for him by nature. And maybe that's a good thing, but I don't think so. I think you've got to have control of your life and you've got to direct it, I think, is the way forward. You've got to direct life in whichever direction you want it to go. But you've got to be malleable and be able to bend and adapt to whatever nature wants to change you.
Be like water, my friend.
Be like water. Exactly. Wu Wei. Harry?
I think the key word for me is spontaneity, and life will be really boring without that one word. We have that ability to do something on the spot without a pre-planned to the perfect millisecond. You need that ability to explore that new thing that we discovered in life
We are explorers. Humans are explorers. That's what we do.
That's what made us survive as a species, and I think we should use that a bit more than we are.
Absolutely.
A lot of us are.
Going into the unknown, you can't plan for that, right? Siji, do you just want to sing us a song like you've been doing?
So, for me, well, I started off, so I've already said what I think of being controlling. But from what the talk that we've had today, I would say what we're saying is at the time when you need to take control of your life, and there may be a time where you feel being in control might work, but in reality it doesn't, because you can't control every aspect of your life, and life without any spontaneity, as you said, is just it's not a life. It's not a life. So take control of your life, you know, give yourself a goal, be balanced, but don't try and overplan everything, because that's not possible, and that'll just cause you more stress and more anxiety. That's what I got from this.
Well, why can we apply that to this scenario? No, why can we apply to this scenario and not have a video of just surveys?
Well,
that's not a joke.
I see.
It's
Okay.
not-
Why is that? Why are you planning this? Why does it do 30 minutes?
It's not overplanned. It's more of a sense that if the video is longer than 30 minutes, most people will not click and won't watch it.
So
it's too long for them to see the
is
end.
this the end goal for people to watch this?
Yeah, of course. It's for people to watch it and to get their own sense of opinion.
I also think we should have one more word from our sponsor, Cronenberg, 1664. And, of course, Life Aid!
On 199. I don't know.
For those things that are just ever so slightly out of reach, you need Life Aid in your life.
Life Aid.
You're going to play us out. Play us out with a song.
Where's your keys? Where's your keys, Vlad? You got your keys?
Mine, yeah.
Can I get your keys?
Why do you need my keys?
Because I need your key ring.
All right.
Don't forget, take a leap with Retro Reality